background, kind of how I got to where I got to, so you kind of understand there, and then for that we'll just take questions. So I graduated here in 1985. I'm a mechanical engineer. While I was here, I was into heat transfer. That was my thing. That's what I enjoyed doing. They tried to teach me structural fundamental analysis. I'm like, what the heck is this stuff? I graduated here, got a job for Grumman Aircraft Systems as a thermodynamic engineer, so I would do heat transfer analysis on airplanes. Then about a year and a half into that, I decided to get a master's in mechanical engineering, so I did that at night while I was working in all of New York, place called Stony Brook, summer. And I left Grumman and I went to a consulting firm and I switched over to financial analysis. So my senior year, I hated financial analysis. It was a company I never saw. A year and a half later, that's how I was earning my bread and butter. So your career change a lot. And part of my master's program, I wound up doing a fair amount of financial analysis work and programs and stuff. I learned that in engineering, at least the way it was 20 years ago, there were two paths in your engineering career. You could wind up being the technical specialist person, or very often then you would transition into a management role. I really had no desire to be a management role. I like technical specialist. My technical specialist is very interesting because you get to work with a lot of the most recent technology, especially in the aircraft thing. The downside for that type of position, though, is that the job security will rise and fall with the administration. Now, the last 20 years, with all the wars going on there, I'm sure being in the aerospace field, you're going to be fine. But if all of a sudden this wars and peace comes in there, you're going to see a downturn in the aerospace work. And you can very easily make yourself too specialized in engineering fields. You can be working for 3 years in a high-tech aerospace firm, and if all of a sudden the job market drops out of you because they lost a major government contract, you try to get an engineering job, you're too specialized very quickly. So seeing that, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different, and that's when I got the itch about going into law. I read this book called Engineers in Law, and they talked about various things where you have engineering aspects that have legal implications. It can be construction law. There's a lot of engineering going on there, a lot of construction law, or it can be product liability, and as well as patents. In my case, when I was working for this consulting firm after I left Grumman, we got to do a lot of design analysis work, actually a lot of analysis work on the Space Shuttle booster rocket and everything in Bloom. And it was kind of cool because we were working these different joints we were analyzing, and you'd see something in the New York Times talking about the space, about the challenge disaster, and I'm like, well, I'm working on that joint, I'm working on that joint. And I actually got to work on the joint that was responsible for causing the failure, doing analysis on there. And I was out of school 3 years to work on my master's, and I did this analysis, and I came to my own conclusion that there was an engineering design for this. Clear. The way the rocket was designed, it was going to have this open gap, and they actually had stuck ships in there which could have the gap open more, so it's just amazing that the gas didn't leak out to the fuel tank earlier, causing the balloon. But seeing this, the consultant firm was also being hired by a law firm, who I was from in Richmond, to do work on some turbine cases that were on more product liability stuff. And so they were having the consulting engineers being testifying expert witnesses and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, boy, if I got a law degree, I already know the technical stuff and the executive stuff there. If I'm cross-examining these expert witnesses, I didn't have the analysis as well as he was doing it. Because the consulting firm I was at was like one of the premier firms in this analysis stuff. So I figured, I read this book about law, it sounded interesting. Why don't I go to product liability law? If I can design something, I can do the analysis, the analysis, I know the law, I have a heads up. And so that's why I decided to go to law school, to do that route. I was in Long Island, and I tried to get to UVA, and at that time, still probably the case there, to get to UVA as an analysis student was very, very challenging, very difficult. The application pool is much. Basically, they have, at that time, they had 200 slots open for 4,000 applicants, and 700 of those applicants had a top 5% LSAT score or 3.5 or 3.6 GPA higher. You compare that to the in-state pool, you have about 1,000 applicants for 300 or so openings, it's more, and the scores were not as high. So I tried to get into out-of-state, and I even had that guy from Guar Woods write a letter of recommendation on my behalf. I wasn't able to get in. He found out that I didn't get in before I told him. So he had pulled with UVA. So I took the backdoor approach. I moved to Lynchburg, Virginia. I lived there for a year, got a residency. So when I was an in-state student, tuition was half. My tuition I paid more in tuition to send my daughter to second grade private schools. It was $12,000 for that 1 year, and my tuition of all 3 years at UVA Law School was $12 total. That was in 89 to 92. But so I did the backdoor approach, got to UVA. Then when I graduated, I didn't want to go to a big city. Most of the big law firms are in the big cities, so if you're going to work for a big law firm, you're probably going to have to go to a big city. That's either going to be DC, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Some of the medium-sized cities have decent law firms. Minneapolis, Seattle's pretty robust. Charlotte, more making there. Raleigh, there's decent stuff there. Patterson, where I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia. There's one firm in town that has maybe 20 lawyers, and that's considered the firm. I use them for my divorce. I'm like, you use that one? Yeah, they're a tiny firm. But they were like the big firm in town. So a lot of times the legal market and the sophistication will be geographically located, and so big cities probably have to do. So, but I really didn't feel like doing a big city, so I wanted to go into Greensboro. And the firm I went to, they did a lot of construction litigation, and they liked me because of my background. And I learned quickly that senior product liability law, that was more ambulance chasing, so that wasn't for me. The construction litigation was more contract interpretation. That really wasn't for me. But when you're a law firm, you do whatever work they give you because you have to make your hours. So I spent a lot of time doing insurance, some of this insurance defense stuff where they represent insurance company had insurance in a big corporation that got whacked for the S&L scandal, and then people trying to go back to the parties, so direct loss liability insurance, and then there were some things involved with malpractice with other law firms, and fraud. Some people went to jail for this, and the prices, some did not. But doing all that stuff, I still started to learn about patent law. So they said, well, this stuff is interesting. Because when you're in law school and you're an engineer, everyone tries to push you patent law. Stupid me in law school, nah, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do that. I want to do my design stuff. But when I got my own, I started reading this stuff really, I find it interesting. The firm I was with was a firm called Patent Boggs. They had a branch office in Greensboro, North Carolina. They're based in DC. They, at the time, were a really big lobbying firm. Founded by Tommy Boggs, who had, I think Hale Boggs was his father, who was a congressman. Big little connections. So big that when Clinton was elected president, one of the DC law magazines had the front cover for the issue, had Tommy Boggs on it saying, Clinton's presidency is a cash machine for patent box flow. And because basically he was so connected with Clinton that more lobbying came in there. At the time, this man named Ron Brown, who was appointed, who was at Patent Boggs, and then he was appointed to be the Secretary of Commerce. The Secretary of Commerce is the guy who actually oversees the patent office. So the Secretary of Commerce, and you have the director of the patent office, the director, a bunch of other things there. So basically, Ron Brown is even over the PTO stuff there. But while I was at Patent Boggs, I had one of the partners I worked for had an undergraduate from MIT and his law degree from Duke. Pretty smart guy. He was getting the itch to do patent law, so he studied, took the patent bar exam. He failed the damn thing. I see this and like, damn, I better study really hard. So I studied. I passed the first time through. He fails it again. 6 months later, he gets a job with the only patent firm in town, and I'm stuck in this firm of 200 attorneys. Bring it down, but 200 at a time. Passed the patent bar, and there's nobody else in the firm who's passed the patent bar. So I can't do any patent work because there's nobody I can sit there and have them look over the applications, because it takes about 2 years to learn how to write a patent application. So just because you pass the bar, you can't just immediately go do it. It's fucking malpractice to do that. So while I was there, one of the partners realized that I was interested in patent law. So he took on small patent infringement cases. Because I was like, well, I'm taking this case here. I don't know anything about patent law, you gotta help me. So I sat down there and I started dictating an outline of everything I knew about patent law. It took 20 pages. And then over the course of time, I started adding to that outline and added to it and added to it. And now it's 30,000 page treatise that's in Westlaw. I grew from something back when I came out of that. It's a whole thing into this giant thing. One of the things, if you guys do pursue a career in law, one of the things that associates are asked to do is to find sites. What does that mean? A partner will write a brief, and there are legal issues that need to be decide these things that the judge is going to have to decide. And a partner will sit there, or some of them are lazy, and they think they know the law. So when they're writing a legal argument, they will write down what they think the law is. And then next to that sentence, they put this little word, CIT. And then the associate is then given that brief, and the associate has to pour through all the case books and tries to find a case that supports that sentence. If the partner knows what they're talking about, you're in good shape. If the partner doesn't know what they're talking about, you're going to spend hours and hours. And most of the time when you get that assignment, the brief is due 12 hours later, maybe 20 hours later. So you're working under some nasty time pressures. Invariably what happens, you are researching multiple case law, looking for something that says, well, point A. You read something point B, very interesting, but it has nothing to do with point A. You finally find point A, or something close up, you hope, and off you go. A month later, same deadline, got another site thing. You need point B. Damn, I saw a case on that. You can't find it. You remember you know it's out there. You try typing the words to the restaurant, find things that you can't find it on. So I got sick of that. So my little outline, I started to add things. So that way, I didn't want to come to a point where I saw something I couldn't find it. So I started building an outline. And so that one grown into the whole treatise. And the whole point was to help people find the cases that they need. But anyway, I'm digressing a lot. So after Patent Box, I did that, and that was a big general practice firm. That was a bad general practice firm in the sense that, right now, law firms have different business models. Most partners are extremely greedy. They can make a lot of money, and they don't have to share the money. And in some firms, they have what's called, they don't call it that, but effectively it's an eat what you kill system. You bring the client in, you get to reap the rewards. And Patent Box was that way. You could be very good at social skills and go on the cocktail circle. And if you could pull the work in, even if you couldn't do it, you could sit there and claim 50% attribution. So if the work brings in $2 million of legal fees, you put $1 million of it as being credited towards you. Even though you may have to get another partner who actually knows what they're doing to do the work. Patent Box had many people that were great on the cocktail circuit because we'd never let them court, but they had contacts and they pulled stuff in there. They would then try to hire people that had great smarts, were very skillful in the law there to actually do the work there. But very often they would not be compensated as fairly as they should be as the person who's bringing in there. The bad thing of those eat what you kill firms is that they force the partners to compete to each other. And so it's very rare that partner A would sit there and ask partner B to help them with something because partner B said, well, only can we share the attribution. And the firm I was at, it got so bad that the managing partner of the Greensboro office, basically they had this complicated case, they worked on it, they got great results, they came up for a second case and things fell apart because the managing partner told one of the partners who worked at, they thought they had an agreement that the lower partner thought they usually get 10%. And the managing partner's like, I don't remember doing that, you have it right. I remember doing 5%. So basically half of that guy's income for the year lost because of the disagreement there. So that was a firm where you always had to have agreements, written agreements among the partners. So cohesiveness and collegiality, not really that good in a firm like that. Contrast that with Finnegan. When I was with Finnegan, Finnegan Henderson is one of the nation's, one of the world's largest patent firms that's been listed patent law. They're probably about 400 attorneys now. When I was there, they were something around 300. At the time, it was Finnegan and Penny, the two big firms. Pretty much if anything was going on, they had to figure it out. They're declining a little bit, but they're still up there. But that was a firm where they believed in firm clients. They tried to say that none of the clients were properties of the individual partners. They were all part of the firm. If you work together, the firm overall will do better. If the firm overall does better, you'll do better than the person in the pocket. And so that made it a much more collegial atmosphere where partners would sit there and step in and help one another. They had no problem sitting there and conversing, saying, hey, I got this situation here. Have you seen that? And they'll come together and they'll talk and they'll work it out and they don't mind helping each other. And it's a much nicer place to go because when you do litigation, which is what you want to do there, not only have to deal with time pressures of getting everything done, you have another side, the adversaries saying everything you're doing is wrong, you're lying to the court, you're misrepresenting this, you don't know what you're talking about. You get these assholes on the other side just reading it all the time, and the last thing you want is